Gary moves fast, and that's to be expected for a head of marketing. In fact, he built the entire PE firm website really quickly. But like a lot of lean marketing team leaders, the message was maybe a little too safe and a little too vague in a few spots. We dug into the real tension of how do you sound different from every other private equity firm without confusing the businesses that you're trying to acquire. In fact, we also talked about why grow your firm falls flat as an H1, when to pull testimonials above the fold, and how messaging clarity can build trust faster than any stock photo ever will. Let's dive in.
Hi, my name is Gary Arnold. I am the VP of Marketing at Basora. I've been in the marketing world about 15 years. I've done a lot of B2B services company marketing over the past decade or so. I love marketing. I also love hiking. I'm a huge nerd, and I'm also a beekeeper.
I love it. Beekeeping. How did you get into that?
We all needed a new pandemic hobby, and that was mine, and it stuck around.
I love it. I feel like everyone got into like bread making
Yep.
and not something as random as beekeeping, but I feel like beekeeping is probably way more fulfilling, maybe.
Well, and I had friends getting into bread making, and it paired well. So they would bring the sourdough, I would bring the honey, and it was a great match.
I love it. Cool. So for those who are not familiar, kind of getting back into this, what does base Sarah, I'm hoping I said that right, do?
Yeah, so Basora, which is where I
Basora.
currently work
I'm
today,
so
yeah,
sorry.
we are a private equity company at our core. Like at the end of the day, that's what it is. I know there's a lot of maybe icky or sticky feelings around private equity, which I agree with generally and affirm. We are trying to be different. We are very new, we're very small, and we're trying to be a lot more holistic and a lot more people focused than what your traditional private equity, the big guys out there on the East or West Coasts typically are.
I love it. Tell me a little bit more about some of the ways that make you different.
The way that we get our funding, without getting super boring and financial, but the way that we've gotten our funding is much more patient and much more long-term oriented, where most private equity is looking to resell in 3 to 5 years. We have an indefinite holding period. We're not looking to resell the companies we own or resell as a holding group. We're just here to build. Our founder, who I've worked with in the past, and his other partner, who I've gotten to know, are a lot more people oriented than your typical, finance bros or whatever. They genuinely care about cultures, and they genuinely care about building people up. And when we acquire firms, we're not like replacing leadership. We want to keep everyone and keep everything that's working and just make little help and improvements and ideas where needed. We're trying to maintain what's great about small businesses.
I love it. And I feel like that's a really interesting company name. What is kind of the meaning or behind it?
Great question. And I asked the same thing when I was like, hey, why are we called this? It's nothing super deep other than like the Bay Area, from which like our founder kind of has a little bit of ties to the Bay Area, and we like the imagery of a bay, and you'll see that when we look at the website. And Sora, which is a Finnish word, I believe, for gravel or pebbles, and so there's like this idea of small, growing to big, or there's also, I believe, a Japanese word very similar that means like sky or up. So we kind of combine a lot of those concepts both in our visual identity, and there's a little bit in our messaging that comes out in terms of the shelter of a bay, building small things into big things. Basora.
I love it. So kind of that whole like Bay Area, a little bit of that kind of tie, plus also the what you kind of saying with both the Finnish word and also the Japanese word kind of falling in there as well.
That's right.
If you don't mind, you want to kind of pull up your screen and we can kind of get into your homepage.
Let's dive in.
Awesome. So kind of walk me through what you were thinking with this image. Is it an actual image? Is it a stock photo? Is it AI? And also walk me through kind of what you're thinking in terms of the main hero section H1 subhead and also start a conversation as the CTA.
Yes, the shadow of AI, of course. No, so as I alluded to with our name, and just like my own personal tastes and sort of what I was picking up from our founders, I started landing in this area of imagery, as you can see, and you'll see this throughout the site. Unfortunately, I've been able to find stock photography. It is stock photography, but I think it's very beautiful stock photography that has both sort of a bay or a coast along with a path. And so this idea and imagery of a path, you'll see kind of start to creep in through the copy as well, that we're trying to make a clear path forward for the next step or chapter, however you want to phrase it, for these owners that we are partnering with. And so that's the reason behind this imagery, and you'll see that again over and over again. Not AI. I decided, oh yeah, you could easily generate this type of image AI. I said, no, I mean, we've got real nature and real earth. Might as well we should use that. So that's my take there on that photography.
Yeah.
Okay, the copy itself. Are we diving into copy? Is that where we're going next?
Yes, but I'll just go ahead and chime in. If you're
Great.
gonna use stock photo, you at least pick something that actually seemed somewhat relevant to your firm, to the firm. And also, even though I will probably nuance a little bit on the copy, you do with something that I feel like 95% of companies do not do on their homepage, which is actually marry their CTA and make sure it's the same across kind of the navigation menu and also the H1. So thank you so much for doing that. And also thank you so much for only having 5 CTAs visible up top when you include the navigation menu.
Yeah, I wanted to keep our menu pretty slim, and there was no reason for it to make the menu any bigger than it is, honestly. And yeah, that button is intentional, whether or not it's functional, but it is intentional at least.
What is the difference between what is supposed to be on, even though you don't have to go to this page, what is kind of the goal behind the become a partner?
Yeah, and this is going to get into some of the nuances of our copy and where we definitely need improvement in general, is that in conveying this homepage and who we are, obviously at the end of the day, we're private equity, we're buying companies. But we didn't want to come off as just like all about the money or all about buying you out or being traditional equity. We wanted to distance ourselves from traditional private equity. And so we use the word partner a lot, probably too much and probably to the point of we're losing clarity on what we actually do, which is still buying firms. So becoming a partner is our way of saying like, this is what we're looking for. Like we want to buy you. And we can go to the page if you'd like, but like that's the idea of like, hey, you want to sell your company. And really it should just be like sell your company, sell your firm. And maybe that would be the better CTA menu
Okay.
item.
So it's not actually like partners for deal flow or affiliates or things like that.
Correct. It's not.
In that case, maybe you might want to get rid of that in the navigation menu because, and then just kind of lean way harder into start a conversation or, sell your company because I see part of become a partner and I could be misguided here, but I see that and I'm like, okay, this is probably a partner's page to get deal flow in or something like that and not actually appealing towards the accounting firms that maybe you want to sell.
Right.
Another kind of thing that just instantly called out to me, I like the subhead where you say boutique tax and accounting firms partner with base word to navigate growth with confidence while preserving their independence culture. That kind of gets into why you're different. I'm wondering a little bit if the H1 could be doing more heavy lifting. When I hear grow your firm, is that grow your private equity firm, grow your accounting firm, keep your legacy? Feels almost a little too vague to me, especially if the end goal for the people and why they're reaching out is because they want to have that exit and take some chips off the table. Can you allude to that a little bit more?
Oh, I totally agree. Because I mean, I've talked with other vendors and other folks that are like, oh, are you like an agency of some kind or a consultancy? It is unclear. At the end of the day, as I've alluded to, the one of the ways that we're different is we do legitimately want to grow these companies
Mhm.
that we acquire, and so we've kind of focused on that here in the H1. And we as the rest of the homepage unfolds, we kind of outline ways in which we're helping them grow. We're also, that's another little nuance maybe that's important with our target audience. Someone who's looking to retire in like the next 6 to 12 months probably is not a good partner. Like we wouldn't necessarily want to acquire them. We want these folks to stick around because they still love what they're doing or they still love their firm, whatever it may be. And so that's why we said like you probably want to grow. Like obviously you probably want to get some money out. That's why you sell, but like we can also help you to continue growing if you've hit any kind of roadblock. And so that's what we leaned into. But as you're alluding to, I think maybe a little bit at the expense of some clarity.
So is there pretty much always going to be some sort of earnout for all of these firm owners?
Typically, yes.
Yeah, I would maybe make that clearer. Well, you maybe don't have to say the word earnout because I know that term is loaded for private equity and also for people who are selling.
Hmm.
But maybe allude to that a little bit more in there, but also be more specific than grow your firm because is that a private equity firm looking to buy up these companies? Is it a marketing agency for accounting firms? Is it something else? You kind of get the picture.
Right.
Cool. That's a couple of things. And then also, I'm wondering, have you actually tested at all the CTA start a conversation versus schedule a call?
Short answer, no. I mean, as we were talking just a little bit before, is this website's very new, and the company itself is also very new. It's just over a year old, this firm on paper, and the website it came out in April. And so, frankly, we don't really have a lot of traffic
Mhm.
right now. We're using this website more as an affirmation tool, a legitimacy and sort of just a brand tool for now as our teams, and we're building a network of referrals and getting people, exposed to our brand. This website, the goal is that it lends legitimacy. So that being said, I would love to A/B test. I don't know if I have a good enough sample size yet to make that worth it
Yeah.
yet.
You said something really interesting there, which is to be more, to have more, to look more credible, look more legitimate. So in that case, you have a stock photo and you have an H1 that sounds a little bit like it could be a lot of different companies, not just private equity. Have you thought about potentially getting a little creative with social proof, either with kind of the logos of firms that you've acquired within kind of that? Oftentimes you'll see that in SaaS companies. That's oftentimes, and I do this all the time with my clients, where you have that world logos pretty much up there to kind of signal it, or having, a video from the CEO and founder of your private equity firm, or it could be, images, image quotes from referrals, something like that, as opposed to a stock photo.
Yeah, I mean, we're still young, so like the quantity and depth of like
Mhm.
our partner logos is not at the point where we want to share it yet, frankly. We're still sort of building them up anyway. So that's one like eventually 100% I want to have logos on here.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's featured, up here in the H1, I don't know. I hear you on that one. Um, and what kind of imagery could we use instead? Like at the end of the day, this is stock photo, it's generic. Hopefully the path means something, but does it actually mean anything in context of private equity? Maybe not. Maybe that is a miss. You alluded to some testimonials, which we do have later on the page, and we
Mhm.
we can go down there and explore. But we do have a testimonial. Maybe I need to push it up. Maybe it needs to be the first thing that people see. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that testimonial you do have, if you want to scroll down to it,
Hmm.
it's pretty buried. I
Yeah.
like it. There's a video there. So, I mean, that's instantly going to give you more legitimacy than pretty much anything else. I would maybe consider moving that, not necessarily into the H1, but right below it. So
Mm,
there are four people who are, they don't have to scroll far. They see that and they instantly clock, okay, this isn't just some like, fly by night firm. Like
right.
there's, real value. There's a kind of real, people getting real value from it. And if you just want to scroll back up to the H1, you said something about not necessarily having a ton of quotes or that are kind of homepage worthy, and I get that. That's something I kind of hear all the time. You can still kind of showcase that credibility in other ways in the H1, particularly with a video.
Mm,
And it doesn't even have to be super high gloss video either. It could literally be scripting 30 seconds from the owners or one of the owners, whoever is kind of the face and CEO, just being like, hey, just talking a little bit about, why we started the company and kind of our vision. That can literally be a Loom video, in my experience, can convert incredibly well.
yeah, I love that idea, and it's funny because our one founder, our president, he and I have been toying around with an idea of a video concept for like a month or two now, and we just haven't gotten around to making it. And like this is a good kick in the butt to be like, we should just make it and throw it up here because I think it will really help.
I mean, honestly, I do a lot of work with a lot of my clients in kind of the early to mid stage, and the amount of times I've literally seen and A/B tested a super simple Loom video that maybe is a little bit more polished than your 3-second one that you send out to everyone, but like, that can be done in a day, maybe recorded once or twice, edited just a little bit for more polish, maybe add some captions, can convert incredibly well.
Love it.
Awesome. If you want to kind of scroll back down.
I do. One comment, Jessica, I didn't mention is when I started at this company, the founders both kind of told me they were big fans of StoryBrand, which I had read, and I'm a passive fan, but I was like, great, if you guys are bought in, I like it, let's use it. And so the layout of this homepage is very StoryBrand informed. Whether or not you notice that, maybe I shouldn't have said anything and see if you noticed. Whether or not that's helpful to our cause or not, I also don't know. But that's the backdrop of like why the sections kind of are the way they are, in that
Yeah.
like H1 is H1, and then we immediately go to problems. And I think that's good best practice anyway, but like that's what we're doing with the story brand with this next section, is like, let's call out the problems. Like, we understand you, here are your problems. The problem with these problems is they are the most common problems. We feel very strongly that these are the four big categories of problems that accounting firms are
Mhm.
facing. And as we acquire them, we are going to work on helping them with these problems as they apply to them. But that's kind of all after the fact. It's not actually the problem of like, should I sell? Why should I sell to you? Sure, you're going to help me after the fact. That's great. Maybe that's a reason. Maybe that's an objection down, like, how are you going to help me? But I think it's a secondary. So we're missing maybe something core here. But that's the explanation of this
Yeah.
section.
Two things. Love the fact that there's a problem section. I would maybe sell, because one of the goals of this homepage is establishing credibility really fast early on. Move that social proof a little bit higher up. Normally, you don't necessarily need it that high up. If you have logos or something else signaling it, in your case, you're bearing your best asset too far down on the page. Like having the problems, I do the exact same thing. Notice the story brand technique works incredibly well for your conversion copy as well. I do wonder if the problems you're alluding to are kind of the second degree problems and not necessarily the first one, which is, okay, what is the main reason a firm owner reaches out to you? Like, and why do they want to sell?
Yep. Yep.
And I'm also asking that now.
Well, it's funny. We just wrote a guide that we're working on the design. That's a very large guide that covers that question, a lot of other questions when it comes to selling. There are a lot of reasons why somebody might want to sell. They can be very emotional, as you imagine, like business founders. It's very personal. Sometimes it's just largely a financial motivation. So like there's a lot of nuances there, and it's hard to. I don't have a great answer off the cuff of like what should we distill it into for a homepage and for the next section after the header that is like the problem or the reason why they want to sell. It's usually multiple factors like, oh, I would like to start exploring other things. Oh, I would love some money. Oh, I've got this younger generation that I would love to help them get into better leadership position. Or I'm going to retire eventually, but I don't know what the plan is. Maybe we can start putting things in place for that plan. Like it's a multitude of factors. I don't have a great like sense other than we've leaned in, and you can kind of see this in some of the language of like there's uncertainty. Regardless of why you want to do it, you may not know what the best path forward is. We're trying to make that more clear and help you about the next path forward.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Could you maybe make this section just kind of fully lean into that one problem, that one umbrella of uncertainty? Because I mean, it sounds to me from what you're saying, without necessarily talking to kind of the firm owners who want to sell, like the main driver is uncertainty.
Yep. I would say that tends to be a big factor.
Yeah. So in that case, maybe make this problem section just be fully leaning into the main problem being uncertainty and spelling out everything that you just shared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Move on to the next section then. So kind of walk me through, obviously, kind of this is bringing in from problem to, and I'm going to use a different framework, not story brand, even though I know it's similar. you're not referring to kind of bringing up the solution of, why you're different. Is that accurate?
Yeah, or you kind of introducing that we are the guide, and we have a
Mhm.
path, so to speak. And that's kind of this part, and then skipping past the social. This is the path, right, or the plan, and we are the guide.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
so that's
think you
kind of
might be missing it? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think you might be missing an opportunity to kind of explain kind of the origin of your name, and also how that kind of ties into why you're different?
Yeah, that's a good question. I debated with the origin of the name, where that lives. Ultimately, right now, there is a full explanation on the About Us page.
Mhm.
I don't know how important that is, especially to accountants. Like, we could have been named a variety of other things. Does that really matter? Maybe, maybe. But regardless, I think what you're getting at is what we need is better and more clear differentiators here. Um, we don't really have them. We're kind of vague platitudes right now about
Mhm.
clarity, which I still feel like that's a strong value I want to emphasize is clarity. But really, why we're different, which I kind of mentioned at the beginning, like we're different from traditional private equity for a variety of reasons. Those reasons aren't obvious on the homepage. They're just not.
Yeah. I don't think you need a full, explanation or a full manifesto, but having some sort of bridge that kind of pulls into like how you're, because like the story that you were saying offline about kind of the origin of the company name, um, could very easily be bridged into why you're different and not like every other private equity firm or even just other firms that are only just going after accounting firms as well.
Hmm.
Yeah. Any kind of thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that's definitely an ad that we need to do. We feel pretty strongly about our differentiators. They exist in some of our decks and they exist in some of like our positioning documents that I've created. But for whatever reason, again, I don't have a great explanation always. Yet you got me. Why did I not put this more strongly here? Well, it clearly needs to be at least here or elsewhere on the homepage.
Totally. I know hindsight is always 2020,
Hindsight's
and I
2020.
know,
And look, I'm not trying to like defend myself here, but I did build this in like 3 weeks. So like,
and
we had
hey,
to bust it out for tax season.
this is really good for a very quick turnaround site.
Thank you.
Next slide.
All right. Then we've
Next
got our
section.
testimonial. We don't have to watch the video, but like this was really fun to put together. Super great, impactful quotes across the board from this, accounting firm owner which we acquired, and he's still there, and it's great.
Yeah, you already know what I'm gonna say. Move that up higher in the
Hmm.
scenario, and then also maybe pull out one of the best quotes from it. So you have kind of the video, and you also have kind of a quote kind of side by side.
Hmm.
Next slide. Empowering your next chapter. Okay, that's kind of speaking to legacy. I'm guessing
Hmm.
you can build further ahead. Um, is there a better image than a very generic handshake?
Yeah, I mean, Jessica, I would love your thoughts on like what do you do about the stock image, quote unquote problem. At the firm I was at a couple years ago, I went out of my way and we did a complete photo shoot with models, so that all of my quote unquote stock photography was my own photography. And at the time it was IT services, so like we would put we had all the guys in the logos with polos, and we staged a variety of like real scenarios doing IT support, and I had a huge library of photos I could pull from all the time. It's awesome. It was awesome. I recommend any service business based business do something like that. But what do I do? I mean, how do I visualize what we do? That's problem number one. And number two, where do I get the imagery to actually show that visualization? And the answer is stock photography. Do I like? I mean, I've seen worse handshake photography, but is this as generic as it gets? Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I'd love.
There's no one size fits all solution. I can say the two ways that I lean into this when I am working with companies that don't necessarily have a ton of visuals is either a lean into minimalist design and make the messaging so much stronger so that the messaging speaks to it
Mhm.
is certainly one path to go down. Second path that you can definitely go down is the photo shoot thing. Love it. If you have the time, bandwidth, budget to make that happen, that can work extremely well. Third is kind of what I've considered a hybrid, which would be get some photos of people within the firm, within your firm, and you kind of utilize that because A, that kind of makes it voice, image, that sort of
Mhm.
thing. Add in, that Loom video, YouTube. Doesn't have to be super high budget. It just has to feel like the firm's culture. And then also with paired or strong copy, can do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to showcase that you're different. And oftentimes stock photos, and even worse than that, AI generated images, which are not the case here in this homepage, can kind of signal a little bit of for lack of a better word, lack of authenticity, and like can almost lower trust versus just leading with the images or leading with photos of the actual team.
Yeah, one thing I tried to balance early on as I was kind of reshaping some of our visual identity and building the site. I threw out some ideas to our founders that were a lot more creatively ambitious, we'll
Mhm.
say. And I'm at the end of the day, I'm not a graphic designer, so I'm not going to like say it was like the greatest. It was just some different ideas of how to approach our visual identity that was way more again creative than this. But they made a good point and pushed back that at the end of the day, our target audience is accountants.
Mhm.
And I don't want to stereotype roles, but like there is some truth to the stereotypes about accountants, right? They are very risk averse. They are very um, professional in their setting. Like obviously they're people just like all of us, right? They all have hobbies, everything,
Mhm.
etc. But like in the professional context and setting, like accountants really are accountants. And so on the one hand, I still want to be differentiated, even from a visual standpoint. And I do want to like, delight and surprise. But also that's that balance of like you also need to give an audience what they expect so that they are in the right frame of mind to receive your message. Because if I start putting up, Lollapalooza or whatever silliness on this homepage, it doesn't fit, and they're just going to be like, "What is this?" Right? So it's that I don't know if I've found the right balance yet, but that's one of the other struggles. Is just like at the end, I'm selling to accountants, and like I have to go to what they expect while still being differentiated.
Yeah, I would in that case, like I said, there's no right answer. Lean a little bit more into the text, and because
Mhm.
that's gonna, still play to getting them. Maybe you add in like a custom diagram or custom illustrate or just more custom illustrations. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
the stock photo thing isn't, that's not even just like an accountant thing. That's just, in my opinion, in my experience, is kind of lowers trust, and which in that place can also lower the number of people who do start a conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to that, I like the empowering our next chapter is kind of a very strong H2 for what this is. Um, and then it sounds like you're kind of looking into more of the things where how you guys help, talent acquisition, operational resources, innovation built to
Yeah,
last.
this is the section that's meant to be kind of the mirror to the problems.
Mhm.
Like to all the four problems, these are the ways that we solve and or address the problems. Like it's kind of just a one-to-one. Again, those are critical problems that accounting firms are facing. So I feel like this sort of lends our legitimacy, like we understand you and we have put in place the ways of helping you post-acquisition, but we are missing that again, that core of like that's all after the fact. What about right now? Like, why am I selling to you? It's not, maybe it's to solve these problems, but I don't know if that's the main reason.
I mean, I think the section works, especially if you go back into the problem section and you make it all about the uncertainty and kind of lean into all of that. And then the section makes tons of sense from there.
Hmm. Yeah.
Scroll down. We've walked the path before. Again, this is probably a really good place to add in some more social proof if you can,
Hmm.
or even if it is anonymized, things like that. That will go a long way to getting many more conversations started.
Yeah. One thing we've started experimenting with in our decks, and I think it should find its way, especially in this section, is like the legitimacy like of our founders who have done over 70 acquisitions. Um, and that's the thing we're trying to balance. Like they're not accountants, our founders. And for some accountants, that's a little bit of like, well, you don't really know me. It's like we've acquired a lot of companies and helped run a lot of companies and done it in a very healthy way many, many times. And so I'm probably going to want to throw a little bit more of those actual numbers here in this section, like that number 70, like over 70 acquisitions and operations, over the past decade. So that's something I'll probably look to do.
Yeah, you just buried like something that would definitely give you a lot more credibility.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adding in things like that in the section goes a long way.
Yeah.
Next section.
And last but
Take
not
the
least,
next great step on your journey. Makes sense. Maybe a little bit, I like the plan legacy, but it might help to make that each one and also kind of the subhead description next to it a little bit more clear that this is a private equity firm. Um,
yeah,
take the
now's
next
the
great
time
step
to
on your
just like
journey.
call it out. If they made it this far, like we should just fully call it out at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but that could mean a lot of different things. Like take the next step on your journey. That's quite a legacy, but it also applies to a lot of other things as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can it go back up to the top of the page? Yeah, there's a lot of things that are like really right here. I do like kind of the imagery around the bay, and kind of that path forward because it is tied into kind of the meaning behind the company name. Maybe spell that out a little bit clearer. You don't necessarily need paragraphs and paragraphs of it or a manifesto on the homepage, but kind of giving the tie in so it doesn't feel random.
Mhm.
And you're not necessarily assuming that somebody on this page would know.
Right.
If you want to kind of, before we kind of pop off, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, this has been very insightful. And yeah, sometimes, yeah, just my own thoughts, getting them out, and then having somebody, feedback and make those observations from an outside perspective, super helpful. So thank you on that front for sure.
Awesome. And thank you for coming on to Clarity Jam.